So now we're gonna start the part B of this experiment, selecting a solvent to crystallize a substance. So we are going to take impure fluorine for this purpose, and I'm gonna use the procedure which is mentioned on page 691, and as per that I'm going to select the best crystallization solvent for this. So basically, as per this procedure, you should have about 0.05 grams of the sample in test tube. So I already weighed. It is about 0.05. It shouldn't be exact, but it should be about 0.05 grams. So I have already weighed this sample into 3 test tubes. And these test tubes are labeled as toluene, methanol, and water. Now, I'm going to use these 3 solvents in order to test the solubility of this compound fluorine into these 3 solvents. So if this compound, it's readily soluble at room temperature, then that's not a good crystallization solvent. Now, if I will add the solvent and if it does not dissolve at room temperature, but then when I will heat that solvent and the compound mixture into the water bath, and then it will gradually dissolve, then you can consider that's the good crystallization solvent. And of course, one solvent among all 3 will be the one which will not dissolve the compound at all, even after heating. So that's the thing we are going to test here in order to get the good crystallization solvent for fluorine. So as per the same procedure, testing solvents for crystallization, I am going to add 0.5 milliliter of toluene first of all into this is about 0.5 milliliter of toluene into the first test tube, which already has 0.05 grams of the compound. And I'm going to use the spatula in order to completely dissolve it. So you can see it's readily dissolved, right? So toluene can't be considered as a good crystallization solvent for fluorine. Now, another is, I'm going to wipe it off the spatula with the help of the paper towels in order to remove any contamination. Then I have here a 0.5 milliliter, about 0.5 milliliters of methanol, and I'm going to add that into it. Again, I'm going to use a spatula in order to dissolve it. So you can see here it is not basically completely dissolved at room temperature. Right now I will basically use the warm water bath in order to dissolve it completely. So I'm going to now put this test tube having the methanol into the warm water bath, and the condition is basically the temperature of the water bath should be higher than the boiling point of the solvent. So the boiling point of methanol is about 65 degrees centigrade. So I will basically, it's more than that, as you can see. And so I'm gonna stir into it with the help of this spatula. And if needed, you can add more solvent in order to completely dissolve it, but you should not go more than 1.5 milliliter. Let's say I've added 0.5, right? So it's dissolving. Water bath is really warm. So as you can see, it's almost dissolved, not completely though. So as you can see, it is completely dissolved now. I have added about 0.5 milliliter more of methanol in order to completely dissolve it. And now I'm gonna stopper this in this test tube and let it sit at room temperature. And after that, I'm going to transfer it to the ice bath. And if you will get lots of crystals, then you would consider it as a good crystallization solvent. Now I'm going to test the water. So it is 0.5 milliliter of water I'm going to add here. And I'm going to swirl it with the help of the spatula. And but as you can see, it's not dissolving at all, right? It's just almost the same amount as I have added. Now I'm gonna put it in the warm water bath or hot water bath. Now I'm going to put it in the water bath. As you can see, the water is boiling and should be close to 100 degrees, of course, since it is boiling. Can see it's not dissolving. Maybe I have to add more water to it. So I'm gonna add 0.5 more to it. Use the spatula. It's not dissolving, as you can see. Let me add 0.5 more, which is the last portion I can add to make it maximum 1.5. So it's not dissolving, as you can see. So it's not a good crystallization solvent. Now you can see the amount of crystals in the methanol test tube. It's a pretty good amount of crystals. So I let it sit at the room temperature first, and then I transferred into the ice water bath. And it's been sitting here for about 15 minutes. And you can see since you have the very good amount of crystals here, so that's the very good crystallization solvent for fluorine. This is the final comparison for basically the three crystallization solvents in case of fluorine, which is part B of this experiment. So we just saw that this is methanol, right? So I just took it out from the ice water bath, good amount of crystals. In toluene, it was readily dissolved at room temperature, and this was water, so it did not dissolve at room temperature and nor in the water bath. I increased the amount of the solvent in order to dissolve it, but it did not dissolve at all. So basically, or if it dissolved, very slight amount. So this is not the good crystallization solvent. So we can clearly see that methanol is a very good crystallization solvent for fluorine. We know that methanol is the best crystallization solvent among all three for the impure fluorine to crystallize. So let's start the crystallization of the fluorine considering methanol as the crystallization solvent. So the first step is to weigh 0.75 grams of fluorine. So we're gonna basically follow the same procedure what we did in part A to crystallize sulfanilamide using 95% ethanol. So that was the first step to weigh 0.75 grams of fluorine. So that's the mass you can record. Now you can see the methanol is boiling. We need the boiling solvent, right? So it's boiling. Now I'm going to add actually the boiling methanol into the 0.75 grams weighed fluorine. And you can see this is my 1 milliliter mark, as you can clearly see on the glass pipette, right? So this is my 1 milliliter mark. So I'm gonna add, the solvent first of all, just to barely cover all the solid, and then I'll try to dissolve. This is about my 1 milliliter, and it just barely covers. So I'm just going to swirl it and try to dissolve here. And if it is not dissolved, I'm going to use the same procedure. I'll add about 0.5 milliliter to it and then try to dissolve. So basically 0.5 milliliter at each time, and I'll try to dissolve until all of the solid fluorine will go into solution clearly. So now you can clearly see my fluorine is dissolved. It was 0.75 grams. So it took about 12.5 milliliters of hot methanol to completely dissolve into it. Now my next step will be, I'm gonna remove it from the hot plate, put it on the bench top, and cover it with the watch glass. Now you can see I covered it with the watch glass, and you can see the crystallization is started already. I will let it sit until this flask comes to the room temperature, and then I will put it in the ice bath. So you can see the beautiful crystallization. Now this crystallization flask, it is basically at room temperature. It took about 10 to 12 minutes to come to the room temperature. Now I am going to transfer into this ice bath. So I'm going to slowly put it in here. And I will let it sit here for about 15 to 20 minutes. And so to basically maximize the crystallization. So it's already 20 minutes. The crystallized fluorine was sitting into the ice water bath. I just took it out, and then I'm going to filter it in the filtration setup. As you can see, the vacuum pump is already turned on. I just added a couple of drops of methanol to my filter paper, right? And basically now I'm going to remove this crystals of fluorine with the help of the spatula, and I'm going to filter them off. And then I have ready my chilled methanol. You can see the methanol is chilling here. So using the chilled methanol, I will transfer my remaining crystals to the buchnut the way basically I did with the sulfanilamide. Chilled methanol into it, and then you know the reason why I am adding the chilled solvent, right? So the solubility is less in the chilled solvent, and I will not lose my crystals of fluorine into the filtrate. Some of it goes, right? But then that's the purpose of the using the chilled solvent. So the solubility is less, and you will lose least amount of the crystals into the filtrate. So as you can see, I've transferred all my crystals from this flask. Right? I use chilled methanol, right? And then everything is here in the Buchner funnel. So I use about 3.5 to 4 milliliters of the chilled methanol in order to transfer my crystals and give a slight rinse. So you can see that all the impurities, the yellow part, maximum yellow part, it comes to the filtrate. And now I am going to let it set these crystals here for 15 minutes so that it will be dried, and then I'm going to check the mass of the crystals in the pre-weighed watch glass. So now it's already been 15 minutes. Looks like the crystallized chlorine is now dried, so I will turn off the vacuum pump, and then I'm going to weigh a watch glass, and I'm going to transfer all of this dried chlorine onto the pre-weighed watch glass. So this is the mass of the watch glass. So this is the mass of the crystallized fluorine on the pre-weighed watch glass. So you need to subtract the mass of the watch glass from this in order to get the mass of the fluorine. So this is basically the crystallized fluorine. If you note down the observations for the crystals, color and appearance. So I prepared basically the melting point capillary tubes, same way what we did with the sulfanilamide. So this is my impure fluorine, right? And this is the crystallized fluorine, or the pure one. So this is the capillary tube for the melting point capillary tube for the pure. So P stands for pure and I stands for impure. Again, I use two separate test tubes to crush the sample evenly. So the process is same to basically pack the capillary tube. So I just kept the samples in the the melting point capillary tubes into the melting point machine. So I for impure and P for pure. And right now the machine is in the rapid heat mode. So you can see the temperature is rising really fast, right? And once it comes to around 85 degrees centigrade, I'm gonna switch the mode to the slow heating mode, 1 to 2 degree centigrade per minute. So now you can see I basically changed the rapid heat mode to the slow heating mode, and the temperature is not rising really fast. So I'm gonna just watch the samples that when they are going to melt. Impure, obviously it's going to melt basically at a broader range and lower melting point, right? So we have to keep everything in mind. So right now they are not melting at all. So the sample hasn't started melting yet, and first impure one is gonna start melting. So it just started melting. Still melting. Since it's impure, so the range is broad. Completely melted, as you can see here. The left one is the impure one. Now I'm waiting for the pure one to melt. So the pure one just started melting and is still melting. And it's completely melted now. and you can see here. So the right one is a pure one. Now I have removed this melting point tubes from the machine, and I will dispose them into the glass bin, or you can say the container which contains the glass waste. And basically this is the cooling mode. So I turned on the cooling mode. I'm cooling my machine so that I can start basically the part C of this experiment. We are done with part B of this experiment. Now we have here recrystallized fluorine. So you are going to recover it into the bottle labeled recovered fluorine. These two watch glasses, they have some sample in it. This one is pure and this one is impure. You are not going to mix these two samples back to pure and this one back to impure bottle. These two will go to the solid waste, the way you saw basically in the sulfanilamide experiment. So that's the bottle for the solid waste. You are going to dispose of these chemicals or these solids into that. Part C of this experiment, mixture melting points. In part A and B of this experiment, we have used the melting point in order to determine the purity of sample, whether the crystallization was proper or not. Now in this section of the experiment, we would use the melting point in order to determine the identity of an unknown. So as you can see, this is an unknown compound, has the unknown code 80269. We need to figure out its identity using the melting point. Now this unknown can be any one of compound from this list. It could be acetyl salicylic acid or benzoic acid, benzoin, and so on. So how would we proceed? First of all, we would take the melting point of this unknown, and we will see that this that melting point is close to which one of it. Let's say it is close to 138 to 140, right? But still we can say that this is the acetyl salicylic acid, because benzoin also has the similar melting point 135 and 136. So what we will do, we would do a technique which is called as a mixed melting point. We would take a little bit of the sample, right? And I'm gonna mix this sample with the known sample of acetyl salicylic acid in one of the watch glass, right? And in another watch glass, I will mix this unknown with benzoin. And I'm gonna record the mixture of both the both the mixtures. Now let's say it is not acetyl salicylic acid, right? So the mixture which has the acetyl salicylic acid and this unknown should melt at the lower and broader range, right? Because acetyl salicylic acid will serve as an impurity for that. And due to impurities, melting point lowers and will have a broader range. Now let's say if it is benzoin, so that mixture should melt at a very sharp range of the melting point of benzoin, which is 135 to 136. So basically that's how we are going to proceed and figure out the identity of the unknown. So I have already prepared the melting point tube the way I did for the other parts A and B, right? And I have already sample in it, and you can see clearly, right? The tube is right there. And so now if you see this machine, it's in the rapid heat mode. So what I will do, I will record a quick melting point. So as you can see the list, the lowest melting point is basically 108. So I will keep an eye on the melting point once it reaches to around 104 or 105 or close to 108 basically. And then it gonna rise faster, right? Because it's in the rapid heat mode. So this will give me a good idea that where my compound is melting, because since this is an unknown. And once I will have an idea, then I will record a proper melting point. Proper means I will switch back to the slower heat mode, and I will record the melting point again. then I will have a better idea that what exactly is the melting point for this particular compound, and then I will go with the mixed melting point in order to figure out the unknown. So the sample has not started melting yet. Now it's just started. Now it's done. So now if you see the melting point of that compound, the first melting point basically was between 122.6 to 127.4. So that gives a good idea that this compound either could be benzoic acid or it could be succinimide, right? If you will see that list. So I'm going to again take the melting point with the, in the slow heating mode. Right now it is in the rapid heat mode. Once it reaches to 100 degrees, I'll turn on to the slow heat mode so that the temperature will rise, slowly. And then I'm going to record the melting point. So here I'm going to record the proper melting point after the first melting point, and sample hasn't started melting yet. So it's just started. Still melting. It's almost there. And is completely melted. You can see the melted unknown. So we already recorded the melting point of the unknown, right? And the range was 120.7 to 121.9, which is close to the benzoic acid, but still we are not sure, right? Because the succinimide is also quite close to the benzoic acid melting point range. So now I am going to do the mixed melting point. So I had here in this watch glass the unknown, right, and the benzoic acid. So I mixed both of them and then I packed my capillary tube. I just labeled UK, means unknown, BA stands for benzoic acid. Similarly, this one is a mixture of succinimide and the unknown. So this is basically the unknown and the succinimide. So I'm going to place it into the melting point machine and record the melting point for both of them. So as you can see here, I have kept both the capillary tubes into the slots in the aluminum heating block. So unknown plus benzoic acid and unknown plus succinimide. And I'm keeping an eye because since it is an impurity, one of the capillary tube contains, so it can melt anytime depending upon that how much impurity was there. Right now both of the capillary tubes are, it does not have any melted compound in it. So both the samples are on the melting point machine, but none of it is melting. Now you can see the sample, the right one, which is unknown plus succinimide, is completely melted, and the left hand side, which is unknown and benzoic acid, it's not started. So anytime the unknown and benzoic acid sample should be, it should start melting because we are very close to the range. So it just started melting. And it is completely melted now. So now you can see clearly both the samples are melted now. So left one is again unknown plus benzoic acid, which melted at a very sharp, melting range of benzoic acid, whereas the right one is the unknown and succinimide, right? And it did melt at a lower melting point and a very broad range. These melting point capillary tubes will go into the glass trash bin. Please peel off the label whenever you label anything in the lab. These labels will go into the trash can, the regular trash can, and this organic solid will go to the organic solid waste container. So the last part of this experiment is part D, critical thinking application. In this exercise, you are going to find out an appropriate solvent for the compound to crystallize based on the solubility and polarity. So first of all, you're going to predict, based on this structure. And these are the compounds you're going to work on, like phenanthrene, cholesterol, acetaminophen, and urea, right? The solvents are listed next to them. So first of all, prediction. And then you would see the Merck index. So I will share you these scanned pages of the Merck index so that you can see whether your predictions were right or wrong as per the Merck index. And so that's all basically in this part D. So no experimentation, just prediction and comparison or confirmation with Merck index. That's all in this experiment number 2, crystallization. Thank you.